men's lacrosse on tap despite the rainy weather once again. Today, the 8-1 Seahawks square off against the 3-6 Nor'easters of the University of New England. After losing their first game of the year last week to Gordon, Salve bounced back by securing a 16-5 road win at Curry. Sophomore Sharp Jones tied his career high with 5 goals, while senior Chad Hollandshade and freshman Nick Lachero each handed out 5 assists for the Seahawks. Freshman goalie Andy Watkins made 12 saves in the net for the Salve Regina. Senior Curtis McKeon won 18 of 23 faceoffs, picking up 13 ground balls for Salve Regina. For UNE, they come limping into today's game, losers of 3 straight and 4 of their last 5. The most recent, a 5-4 overtime loss to Babson last Thursday. The Nor'easters received goals from freshman Connor Leggett, seniors Dan Gorman and Patrick Wolf, while freshmen Dan Auger and Jeff Bruno each added an assist. Freshman goalie Joel Medal made 14 saves for the Nor'easters. Salve Regina and the University of New England have faced each other 16 times before, with the Seahawks holding a 10-6 advantage all-time in the series. The Nor'easters won the last meeting between these two teams 18-9 in the opening round of the Commonwealth Coast Conference tournament last season. The Seahawks and Nor'easters have played closely fought battles, as neither team has a double-digit win over the other in their history. However, Salve Regina holds the largest margin of victory with a 17-9 win on April 22, 2006, back in Biddeford, Maine. We can only expect another closely contested battle here today. We will have starting lineups, the anthem, and opening face-off next. Getting ready for the start of the first quarter here. Curtis McKeon out to draw. against Dan O'Gorman. Ball's on the ground. McKeon shovels it, and it's taken by James Fee. Fee moves to Nick Lachero. Ball walked around behind the net. Chad Hollandshade holding there. Hollandshade to Lachero. Lachero holding deep on the left side, circling around the outside. Back to McKeon at the point. Ball moved back to Lachero. Back to Hollandshade. Dan Parks can't handle it, so he retreats back out. They find Lachero deep on the far right side. Lachero holding behind the net. Back to Hollandshade. Return to McKeon. McKeon fakes a pass, now comes up to the point. Parks holding there, now feeding James Fee. Back to Parks. Parks winds, tries to shoot. Instead comes to Lachero. Return to Parks. Parks fires, shoots wide of the net. Nick Lachero holding again behind the net. Return to Parks at the point. Shoots and he scores! Dan Parks from the point. And it's 1-0 Seahawks. .8:41 to go in the first quarter. Curtis McKeon wins the draw, races the offensive zone past Nick Lachero to the other side. Shot saved by UNE. Joel Metal made the save, but a foul called against the Nor'easters gives Salve Regina the ball back. Nick Lachero. Sharp Jones fires and shoots, and that'll trickle out of bounds. It'll stay Salve ball. Lachero holding behind the net. Ball moved to the point. James Fee holding there. Return to Lachero. Trying to find Sharp Jones in the middle. The pass too wide. Taken by UNE. Dan O'Gorman. Cradling and holding into the offensive end. First offensive possession here for the Nor'easters. Already trailing 1-0. 12:56 to play in the first quarter. Ground ball taken by Mike Allen. Now Andy Kuro holding. Dan Auger will take up position behind the net. Auger strong to the point. Return to Kuro. Back to O'Gorman at the point. UNE working the perimeter game. O'Gorman, return to Andy Kuro. Andy Kuro trying to start his drive. Works down the right side, now passes behind the net. Goes through his knees and out of bounds. Right past JT Oliver, and that'll be a turnover, and it'll be Seahawk ball. Alex Hennessy with it on the right side. Throws it in deep. Nick Lachero has it. Lachero comes to Sharp Jones. To Backus at the point. Return to Backus. A whistle. And a stoppage of play. And they call an offensive foul. O'Gorman. Return to Andy Kuro. Kuro turns the shoulder, now spins back to his left, trying to work his way middle. Shut off there. Being guarded very closely by Alex Flynn. Ball loose on the ground, picked up, shot saved by Watkins. It's down by his knees. He doesn't see it. He covers it up in front of the crease, and he has it. Eric Backus cradling on the far side, just steps around the player and passes into the offensive end. Hollenshade lobs out near the point. Eric Hoffman with it. Ball moved to Lucero. Back up to Backus. Backus to Lucero. Lucero can't handle the pass. Ball's loose on the ground. Players fighting for it. Lucero knocks down a player. Ball still loose. Taken by Backus. Trying to feed in front to Hollenshade, but they whistle and call a foul on the far side of the field. Another turnover on the Seahawks. Seahawks leading 1-0, 10:28 to play in the first quarter. Sam Cloutier holding on the far side of the field, looking for an opening. Being defended well by Steven Russell, forcing him back out. Cloutier still looking for a pass. Spinning away, ball loose on the ground, but taken in the offensive zone by UNE. Nick Gross just spins, shoots on net, deflected wide by Watkins. Patrick Wolf scoops it up on the far side of the field. Moves to Connor Leggett. Now Gross again trying to make his move, cradling. Trying to spin back towards the inside. Looks for daylight. Shoots on net. And it's deflected wide. Saved by Watkins. Ground ball in the offensive end. Players fighting for it. Hollenshade scoops it up, but then has it knocked away once again. Ball still loose on the ground, trickling towards the sideline and controlled by UNE. Chris Harlow crosses into the offensive zone. And then a foul going against the Nor'easters near midfield gives Salve Regina the ball right back. Alex Flynn passes it to the far side of the field to Rodrigo Hernandez. Brendan McGrath now charging in the offensive end. Gets shoved. The ball trickles onto the ground and it's scooped back up by the Nor'easters. Goalie is out of his net. Ball is still loose on the ground. Finally controlled by Metal. Metal is a good 15 yards out of his net and now lobs up near midfield and we have a whistle. Foul going against UNE. Nick Lucero with it. Lucero deep on the right side. Moves behind the net to Sharp Jones. Now McKeon. McKeon holding at the point. Back to Sharp Jones. Move behind the net. Lucero holding there. Circles around to the left corner. Welcomes back to McKeon at the point. McKeon. Lucero holding. Behind the net. Dumps it into Hollenshade. Hollenshade shoots. And it's saved by Metal. That pass too high, out of bounds. It'll be Salve Regina ball. Salve leading 1-0 with 7:44 to play here in the first quarter. Lucero finds Sharp Jones. Sharp Jones tries to shoot, gets knocked down. Ball loose in the ground and scooped up by the Nor'easters. Here comes Gross. Gross driving all the way in. Feeds to the other side. Shot coming in front. Saved by Watkins. Oh, and couldn't get it. Trickles in. Can't tell who scored on the far side, but it's 1-1 with 7:28 to play. Nick Gross with the strong move down the right side of the field. Drove all the way in on Watkins and then flipped it over his shoulder to Oliver. Thought Watkins was able to recover and get a piece of that, but it's 1-1 with 7:28 to play in the first quarter. It's so hard to see if they score the windows. Ground ball picked up by the Nor'easters. Chris McKeon does not often lose on the draw. Gorman Moves to Mike Allen. They work it around the perimeter. Now back behind the net. Oliver with it there. Return to Dan Auger. Ball knocked away. Ball still loose on the ground. Players fighting for it. Finally controlled once again by the Nor'easters. Mike Allen on the right side. Shoots! Bouncing shot over the top of the net, heading out of bounds. .6:35 to play in the first quarter. Game tied at 1. Point coming from the left side. Deflected wide, out of bounds. Auger back to Oliver. Oliver returned to Auger. Auger staying in the corner. Oliver and Auger just playing a little two-man game. Ball being held behind the net. Now comes to the far point. Andy Curl out near the perimeter. Andy Curl just whips it on net from a good 30 yards out. Goes out of bounds with Nor'easter still in possession. Very long possession here. Auger charging in front. Shooting. Bouncing off the ground. Taken by Oliver behind the net. Return. Shot wide. Scores. Patrick Wolf scores. Lots of second chances there for the Nor'easters, and they make best of it. And it's 2-1. .5:52 to play in the first quarter. Curtis McKeon on the face-off here for Salve Regina. McKeon looking for it. It's down near his feet. He collects it. Flips it ahead to Eric Hoffman. Ball moved to Lachero behind the net. Now Hollandshade. Return to Sharp Jones. Cam Brazil holding at the point now near the 35-yard line. Return to Sharp Jones. Back behind the net to Lachero. Lachero holding behind the net. John to his right into the corner. Now retreats back once again behind the net, circling to the other side. Kicks out to Hoffman. Lachero looking for a centering pass. Comes out to the point. Shot from Brazil. Saved by Metal. Pass too high. And it's taken by Hernandez. Hoffman moving down the far side. Now Lachero. Circling behind the net again. Passes to Hollandshade. Return to Sharp Jones. Back to Hollandshade. Now Lachero again behind the net. Seahawks working the perimeter game. Now they come out to the far point. Can't be handled there by Brazil. Back to Hoffman. Return to Brazil. Moves to Lachero on the far side. Lachero fakes the interior pass. Tries to come centering with it. And it's a shot on net. Deflected from Eric Hoffman. Is saved by Metal. And a penalty called on UNE. So Seahawks with the ball. 3:56 to play. In the first quarter, Seahawks trail 2-1. Hollandshade moves to Backus at the point. Backus to McKeon. McKeon winds up, shoots on the ground low, saved by Metal, and scooped up by the Nor'easters. Andrew Kelly, strong through contact. They loop it up ahead. Brett Lavassier charging in front, has the ball knocked away, loose on the ground. Delayed penalty being called. Nor'easter still in possession of the ball. Charging in front. Shot blocked away by Watkins. Oliver to Auger. Ball comes to the point to O'Gorman. Moves to Patrick Wolf. Spinning away from contact, losing his stick. It's loose on the ground, and it's picked off by the Seahawks. Here comes Eric Backus, charging strong into the offensive end. Pass to Sharp Jones. Now Lachero trying to feed it in front. That pass too high. Deflected. It's out near midfield. Curtis McKeon in a foot race for it. McKeon tries to go to the ground for it. It scoots out of bounds. Stays inbounds, and Dan O'Gorman controls. His pass on the ground to the far side. Shot coming in front. Deflected by Andy Watkins. Out of bounds. Seahawk defense able to stave off an odd man rush for the Nor'easters. UNE still in possession here. Leading 2-1 as we approach 2 minutes to play in the first quarter. Dan Auger moves back to Andy Curro. O'Gorman at the point. Guarded by McKeon. O'Gorman trying to go strong down the right side, spinning away. Passes back out to Curro. Curro trying to pick his way to the right. Has it knocked away, loose on the ground. He picks it back up, though. Curro will try and reset the offense. Dan Auger. Holding against Russell, spinning, kicking back out. O'Gorman at the point. Charging strong down the right side, looking for space. Ball moved behind the net to Oliver. Oliver. Hands off. Ball comes back to Auger here on the near side. Return to Oliver at the point. Oliver looking to wind up for a shot. Instead, he comes to Auger again in the corner. Mike Allen trying to look for a shot, and it's taken away by Russell. Nick Lachero has it. Passes on. Curtis McKeon can't handle it just behind him. He swats at it, and it's able to be taken by James Fee. Holland shade behind the net to Dan Parks. Now Curtis McKeon holding at the point. Salve trailing by 1 here with 20 seconds to play in the first quarter. Lachero to Hollandshade. Hollandshade winds and fires, and it'll go out of bounds. They say that it's UNE ball. 9 seconds to play in the first quarter. Ball lobbed on up ahead. Watkins out of his net to take it. He will just sprint towards center field, and that will end the first quarter. So after 15, it's 2-1. University of New England will take a timeout. Here at the start of the second quarter, UNE in possession. Fritz Kleinhempel with that chance there for UNE. Fritz all the way from Hamburg, Germany, playing for the University of New England. Alex Hennessy bumped, can't handle, so he moves back to James. He will try up the right side, spinning away from contact. If he moves to Hollandshade behind the net. Onside to Lachero. Lachero trying to find Fee in front, no doing, so he comes to McKeon at the point. Sharp Jones. Back to Lachero behind the net. McKeon back to Dan Parks. Lachero again holding behind the net. Looking for daylight in front. Shot from the point goes wide, out of bounds. That shot coming from Sharp Jones. Lachero finds Curtis McKeon. McKeon spinning away from contact. Reverses field. Comes to Dan Parks. James Fee. Fee back to Lachero. Trying to feed it in front. Shot right in front off the crossbar. Shot off the top of the crossbar and out of bounds. It stays Salve ball. Lachero trying to feed it to the point. He loses it. Getting knocked down to the ground on the other side. We have a whistle. And it's still Salve ball. Nick Lachero holding on the far side of the field. Passing to Hollandshade behind the net. Dan Parks holding at the point. Return to James Fee. Back to Hollandshade. Lachero now. Lachero circling around the back of the net. Being watched by Mel. They return back out to the perimeter. Dan Parks holding at the point. Salve just working it around the perimeter. Not many players standing in the middle. They come in front to Hollandshade. Hollandshade shot off the ground, and it's scooped up and taken by the University of New England. McKeon still fighting for it, and it's taken by James Fee. McKeon not giving up on the possession. Salve Regina still with the ball. Sharp Jones moves it to the back. Hollandshade return to Lachero. Back to Hollandshade. Dan Parks holding at the point. Now Curtis McKeon. Feed back to Lachero. McKeon on the ground from the point. Trickling out of bounds. Still Salve ball. Lachero works his way. Moves to Hollandshade on the other side of the net. Return to Lachero, back to Hollandshade. Hollandshade looking for the angle. Instead, they come back out to the point. Dan Parks holding there. Moves to Curtis McKeon. McKeon starts his drive, working to the right. Back to Lachero. Lachero tries to feed it out. Shot from the point. Scores! Dan Parks scores, and he ties the game at 2 with 11:27 to play in the second quarter. $15 goals on the season for Dan Parks. He's got both goals today, and this game is tied at 2, 11:27 to play in the second quarter. Curtis McKeon can't handle the faceoff. It's taken by the University of New England, but Salve still scrapping for it. It's still loose on the ground. Players going to the ground for it. Alex Hennessy trying to go after it. A foul called on Salve Regina. Gives the ball to the University of New England. Dan O'Gorman. Andy Curro holding. Tries to feed it in the middle. Low shot on the ground from O'Gorman. Scores. Shot it, underhanded it, rolled in past Watkins' toes, and it's 3-2 UNE with 49 seconds, 10 minutes and 49 seconds to play, rather, in the second quarter. Curtis McKeon controls the face-off with O'Gorman. McKeon finds Lachero on the left side. Lachero circles around and moves to Hollandshade behind the net. Hollandshade moves to Cam Brazil. Eric Hoffman. Now they move to the far side. Hollandshade back to Lachero behind the net. Lachero to Backus. Moves to the point. Back to Backus. Lachero trying to find James Fee over the middle. It goes wide, but it's taken by Hoffman. Hollandshade. Lobs all the way out to Cam Brazil at the point. Cam Brazil holding at the point. Moves to Backus. Now Lachero again. Lachero fakes the centering pass. Drives to the right side. Ball comes to Hoffman at the point. Now Brazil. Eric Backus returned to Brazil. Seahawks working the perimeter. Backus now trying to drive middle. Reverses field. Throws back out to Cam Brazil. Backus to Lachero. Lachero reverses field. Drives, takes up position behind the net. Tries to throw back out to the point. That pass broken up and stolen. Fritz Kleifhempel throws it over the shoulder pass just wide. Scooped back up, though, on the far side by Dan Auger. He flips to Andy Curro, and he'll trot into the offensive zone. Curro trying to drive strong down the right side. He's shut off there. So he backs back out near the 30-yard line, now the 35. Curro stepping back all the way out near the 40 now. Trying to drive on Alex Flynn. Curro gets past him, drives, shoots, saved by Watkins. .8:35 to play in the second quarter. Nor'easters leading over the Seahawks 3-2. James Fee moves to Curtis McKeon. McKeon loses the ball. Scoops it back up. No pressure, so he just holds out at the point near the 35-yard line. And hands off to Dan Parks, the only one who's scored for the Seahawks today. 2 goals. Hollandshade to Lachero. Back to Hollandshade. Moves back up to Parks at the point. Now Eric Backus. Feeding to James Fee. Now Lachero. Feeds Backus. Backus winds, shoots, and it bounces right over the top of the net. Lachero takes it, finds James Fee. James Fee trying to reverse field. Comes to Backus. His pass way wide, trickling out of bounds on the far side, so a turnover on the Seahawks. 7:44 to play in the second quarter. Connor Leggett being guarded by Curtis McKeon. Leggett hands off to Nick Gross. Gross spins on McKeon. Gross escapes McKeon. Watkins blocks a shot from the point, but we have Laundry on the ground. The yellow flag is out. And we'll see who's going to sit here. Mike Allen moves to O'Gorman. Now Curro. O'Gorman. Centering pass, taken away and stolen. Billy Sampson takes it away. Sampson still with it. Passes out to midfield. Taken there by Dan Parks. Dan Parks will charge in the offensive end. Flip ahead to Eric Backus, rather. James Fee handles it in the corner. Now passes behind the net to Lachero. Lachero finds Eric Backus. Backus shoots and it bounces wide. And another flag on the ground. Call going against University of New England, so Seahawks will have the man up, trailing 3-2 with 6:24 to play in the second quarter. Lachero holding behind the net, moves out to Holland Shade. Now Eric Backus once again at the point. Curtis McKeon back to Holland Shade. James Fee on the far side. Fee back to McKeon. McKeon low, rolling shot saved by Metal. And then a scoop poke attempt knocked wide. And Lachero goes back to retrieve it, so Seahawks still in possession. Lachero moves to McKeon. McKeon low, dribbling, bouncing shot high over the net, out of bounds. Still Seahawk ball. James Fee holding, shoots from a difficult angle. Taken by McKeon, though. Return to Holland Shade. Now Eric Backus can't handle it. Goes over the top of his cross. Trickles out of bounds. And that'll be UNE ball. Nor'easters leading 3-2 with 5:32 to play here in the second quarter. Andy Kelly holding on the right side. Flips it. Ball loose on the ground in Salve's defensive zone. Taken again by Dan Auger. Auger cradling behind the net. Whistle and a stoppage of play. And Patrick Wolf will take it on the near sideline. Wolf moves to Sam Cloutier. To Gross on the far side. Moves it back behind the net. Oliver trying to find Cloutier at the point. Has his pass go out near midfield. Goes right to the legs of Sharp Jones. Now scooped up by the Seahawks. Lachero with it. Circles wide. Trying to work his way behind the net. Lachero moves to Holland Shade behind the net. Cam Brazil joining the play late here on the near side. Holland Shade. Back to Lachero. Lachero looking, trying to feed out near the point. His pass is deflected out near midfield. Players scrambling for it. Still loose on the ground. Knocked away near midfield again, taken by Gross. Gross has a lead pass. It goes over the head of Andy Watkins, who would come out to challenge. In the back by Salve Regina, lob field. Ball moved back behind the net. Chero comes to Brazil. Now McKeon holding at the point. Salve trailing by 1. 3:44 to play here in the second quarter. To the far side. Now back behind the net. Lachero trying to find it. Short side. Can't be handled there. And it's saved by Metal. Gross charging on up ahead. Just shoots high. Saved by Watkins. And he lobs out to Holland Shade. Shade crosses in the offensive zone. Finds McKeon on the short side. McKeon shoots. Saved by Metal. Bottom trying to weak it, and it's taken by Salve Regina. Here comes Cam Brazil. Lobs to Holland Shade. 2:52 to play here in the second. McKeon holding at the point, now moves back to Brazil. Ball move to Backus joining the play late. Shot from the point, saved by Metal rather. Here's out to the near side. Gross takes it at the 25. Has it slapped at, knocked loose on the ground. Brazil fighting for it, and it's taken away by Cam Brazil. Alex Flynn on the run. Retreats into the corner. Salve Regina calls timeout. Will take it. 2:04 to play. Salve trailing 3-2. Players return to the field. Nick Lachero holding behind the net. Now Curtis McKeon at the point. Dan Parks, the only goal scorer today for Salve Regina. Chad Hollandshade holding in the corner. Moves back to James Fee. Now Parks at the point. Return to Fee. Parks again moves to McKeon. Return to Parks at the point. Fee back to Hollandshade in the corner. Fee, Dan Parks holding way out at the point now. Curtis McKeon will drive. Reverse field. Hand off to Sharp Jones. Now Nick Lachero. Hollandshade. Return to McKeon. Low shot at the point. Saved by Metal. That's McKeon's shot. That low rising shot. Players in a fight for the ball out near midfield, and it's taken away by the Seahawks. Hollandshade holding behind the net. Reversing field. Comes to the point. James Fee winds up. He fires, and it's saved by Metal. 52 seconds to play now in the second quarter. Fritz Kleinhempel holding. Moves back to Dan O'Gorman. And now a timeout called by the University of New England. We'll take it with 37 seconds to play. Salve Regina trailing by 1. So Salve Regina, the home team today, but University of New England seems much more in their element today here in the rain. I stole that from my friend here in the booth, but it's a good line, so I'm going to use it. Daniel Gorman shoots from the point, saved by Watkins. Now Alex Flynn up the left side. McKeon behind the net trying to feed in front. Sharp Jones shoots and he scores! And we're tied at 3 with 2 seconds to play in the second quarter. Sharp Jones has tied the game at 3 with 2 seconds to play in the second quarter. And we reach the end of the second quarter. We'll head to halftime with the score: Salve Regina 3, University of New England 3. We'll take a timeout. Curtis McKeon has it off the draw, drives all the way in, shoots wide of the net. Lachero back to Hollandshade. First possession here of the second half for Salve Regina. Sharp Jones and Dan Parks, only goal scorers here today for the Seahawks. Dan Parks has 2. And he has it here at the point. Moves back to Sharp Jones. Now Nick Lachero. Lachero finds McKeon. His pass deflected. Rolling out near midfield. Taken by James Fee, and he hands off to Dan Parks. Back to Fee on the far side. Now Lachero working behind the net. Hollandshade. Back to McKeon. Return to Hollandshade. Lachero lobbing out to Parks. Parks at the point. Moves to Fee on the far side. Back to Lachero. Cycling behind the net. Hands off to Hollandshade. Back to Fee. Return to Hollandshade. Lachero cycling in front. Hands off to Hollandshade. Tries to find it in front to Sharp Jones, who can't handle it. And he shoots wide. Tracking out of bounds on the far side. Still Salve Regina ball. 2.5 minutes into the third quarter. Fee on the far side, lobs back out to Dan Parks. Taken by McKeon now. Holding at the point. Sharp Jones back to McKeon. Up to James Fee on the far side. Now Nick Lachero behind the net. Lachero driving in the net, trying to find it. Sharp Jones in front. His shot off the ground wide. Taken by Lachero. Lachero finds James Fee. James Fee's shot goes off metal, heading out of bounds. Nick Lachero back to Hollandshade. McKeon at the point, return to Hollandshade. Lachero once again handles behind the net. Hands off to Hollandshade. Hollandshade will trot behind the net and hand off back to Lachero. Lachero to Hollandshade. Back to Fee. Dan Parks holding at the point, return to Fee. Lachero working to his right. Flips back to Hollandshade. Hollandshade tries to reverse field, work his way to the middle. Shot. Pass comes to the far side, tracking out of bounds. Still Seahawk ball. This is a very long sustained attack here for the Seahawks. Nick Lachero holding behind the net. Moves back to James Fee. Return to Lachero. Sharp Jones. Back to Lachero. Hands off on the far side, returns back to Lachero. Lachero trying to feed it in front. Low shot from McKeon, taken by Metal. Joe McNichol holding on the far side, clears to the opposite side to Nick George. Now Metal with it, out of his net. Moves up to Andy Curro. Curro being pressured. Curro able to get all the way into the front of the net. Shot deflected high by Watkins. 11:30 to play in the third quarter. JT Oliver spinning away from contact. Kicks back out to the point. O'Gorman holding there. Moves back to Curro. Curro holding at the point. Being pressured by Steven Russell. Curro. Spins on Russell. Trying to work his way to the middle. Has the ball knocked at. Loose on the ground. Taken by O'Gorman. He flips to Patrick Wolf. Wolf sees daylight. Loses the ball. Can't control it. Can't be scooped up by Hernandez. He finally does get it. He tries to flip it to Dan Parks. And it's still loose on the ground. No one in control of the ball. A comedy of errors Ball still loose on the ground at the 40-yard line. No one in possession. Finally taken by UNE. And that outlet pass goes out of bounds. So it'll finally be Seahawk ball after all that scrambling. 10:28 to play in the third quarter. Game tied at 3. Lacrosse moves behind the net to Holland Shade. Low-scoring game thus far, and obviously the element's a big part of that. Cam Brazil holding at the point. Holland Shade just spins and shoots on net. That'll go out of bounds. Still Salve ball. Rocket shot from Holland Shade. Nick Lacero holding behind the net. Passes back out to Holland Shade. Now Cam Brazil at the point. Brazil floats it down low for Lacero again. Lacero finds Holland Shade. Holland Shade spins and shoots, and it goes wide of the net. Holland Shade. They move behind the net. Lacero holding there. Tries to flip it in front to Sharp Jones. Sharp Jones just taps it in. And it's 4-3 Salve Regina. Lacero lobbed it up into the middle. Sharp Jones just went up, redirected it in. With 9:20 to play here in the third quarter, Salve Regina takes their first lead of the game, 4-3. Curtis McKeon on the face-off. Ball loose on the ground and taken by James Fee. Flips to Steven Russell. Russell crosses in the opposite end. Flips to Holland Shade. Holland Shade. Curtis McKeon. Moves to Sharp Jones. Now Lacero behind the net. So 2 goals from Sharp Jones and 2 goals from Dan Parks. And Salve leads by 1. 4-3. Parks holding at the point. Moves to James Fee on the far side. Comes to Lacero behind the net. Now Holland Shade. Return to Parks. Fee on the far side. Back to Lacero behind the net. Lacero ducks one way. Feeds the other. Tries to pass back out to Parks at the point. And it's picked off there by Sam Coburn. Coburn spinning. Finds Fritz Kleinhempel in front. He shoots, and it's knocked wide. Fritz Kleinhempel, 5'10", 175-pound senior from Hamburg, Germany. Sam Cloutier holding at the point. Now moves back down to Auger. Oliver behind the net. Oliver reverses field. Moves back to Auger. Back out to Cloutier at the point. Cloutier trying to find space. Nothing there, so he flips back out to Gross. Gross blocked away by Russell. Returns to Cloutier. Cloutier looking for space. He just turns and shoots, and that'll go wide out of bounds. 7:34 to play in the third quarter. Dan Auger finds space in the middle, shoots wide of the net. Out of bounds, it'll be Salve Regina ball. Andy Watkins has it, and he'll clear out to midfield. Dan Parks can't handle a bouncing ball. Now he does, and he spins away from contact, and Dan Parks off to the races down the right side. Tries to find Lacero, eludes his cross, and it goes out of bounds, so turnover on Salve Regina. Chris Harlow holding the 40-yard line. Now midfield. Harlow being guarded by Alex Flynn. Harlow will circle back around. Cloutier cradling at the 40-yard line, looking for space. Pass comes to the middle. Leggett has it, drives all the way in, shoots, and scores! Connor Leggett, uncontested, ties this game at 4 with 6:35 to play in the third quarter. O'Gorman and McKeon to face off at midfield. O'Gorman initially wins the face-off. Ball still loose on the ground, though, and it's taken by the Nor'easters. Sam Coburn with it. Tries to flip it to O'Gorman. It's stolen by Russell. Flips ahead to McKeon. McKeon spins away from contact. Works his way down the left side. We have a timeout called on the field. We'll take it. 6:15 to play in the third quarter. Game tied at 4. Curtis McKeon moves to Dan Parks. Lachero holding behind the net. Hollandshade. Lachero holding again behind the net. That pass up to the point, deflected, loose on the ground. Play is in a fight for it, and it's taken by University of New England. Patrick Wolf has it. Wolf back to Oliver. Now Wolf shoots wide of the net, out of bounds. Dan Auger with it. Flips it into the middle. Shot saved by Watkins. Connor Leggett got lost in the middle again, but Watkins stayed strong to save that ball. Salve holding at the point. McKeon. Sharp Jones now holding behind the net. Chero with it there. Moves back to James Fee at the point. Hands off to Cam Brazil. Return to McKeon. Sharp Jones. Hollandshade. Lachero. Back to Hollandshade. Flips it to Sharp Jones. Sharp Jones spins and shoots. Wide out of bounds. Hollandshade moves to McKeon at the point. Flips it to Hollandshade. Back to McKeon. Cam Brazil. Now James Fee on the far side. Lachero holding down the left corner. Now circles back behind the net. Curtis McKeon holding. Ball comes to McKeon. McKeon can't control it. It's loose on the ground. Players fighting for it, and it's finally controlled by Sharp Jones. Sharp Jones weaving his way. Flips it to Hollandshade. Now back to Lachero to Hollandshade. Lachero cradling, flips back to Hollandshade behind the net. Hollandshade trying to feed it out in front for Curtis McKeon, too far, but taken there at midfield by Salve Regina. Then knocked away, loose on the ground yet again. Leggett can't control it. Still loose on the ground. Now it's knocked back into the Salve bench area, out of bounds. And it's Salve ball. Curtis McKeon holding. Charging all the way in. Low rising shot from Curtis McKeon. Scores! And it's 5-4 Salve Regina. .3:27 to play in the third quarter. Salve Regina takes the lead once again. 5-4 after the shot from Curtis McKeon. McKeon at midfield to face off against Dan O'Gorman. And Fritz Kleinenhempel takes the face-off from O'Gorman. Charges down the right side. Now flips back out to the point. Sam Cloutier. Guarded by McKeon. Cloutier trying to work his way strong down the right side. Rights all the way to the front. Underhanded shot, scores. Nor'easters answer right back, and we're tied at 5. 12 seconds after McKeon gives Salve the lead. .305 to play in the third quarter. Game tied at 5. McKeon flips the one face-off back to Dan Parks, and Parks will take it at the 35-yard line, still in his own end. Flip to Hollandshade in the offensive end. Now Nick Lachero behind the net. Lachero, 2 games ago for the Seahawks against Gordon, set the single-season assist record for a lacrosse player, which is incredible, seeing as that was only the 8th game of the year. In his 10th game, and you know that record may be a record that stands for a very long time. Lachero holding here behind the net. Looking for another assist in this game. Moves to Sharp Jones. Back to Dan Parks. Return to Sharp Jones. Lachero holding behind the net. Flips back out to Cam Brazil. Return to Lachero. Tries to feed it in front, wide. Trickling out near midfield. Plays in a battle for it there, and it's taken by Auger. Auger trying to work his way strong down the right side. We'll circle back to the corner and look for reinforcements. O'Gorman flips to Leggett. Patrick Wolf with it. Sam Cloutier. Lobbing out for Andy Curro. Nick Gross spinning, shooting wide of the net. Trickles out of bounds. Still going to be Nor'easter's ball with 1:18 to play here in the third quarter. Game tied at 5. Very fast-paced games. Not a lot of penalties being called. Ball behind the net, flipped out near midfield. Cloutier out to retrieve it, and he'll trot back into the offensive end. Sam Cloutier trying to work his way to the middle, looking for a shot, spins away from contact, cradles, shoots, and it trickles wide of the net. Shot may have been deflected wide by Watkins. UNE still in possession. 47 seconds to play here in the third quarter. Game tied at 5. Auger moves behind the net to Oliver. Then Auger still holding here. Guarded by David Mavilla. Auger spinning, just turns and shoots, and it's blocked in the middle and taken by Steven Russell. Russell flips ahead for Brazil. 26 seconds to go in the third quarter. Brazil flips ahead for Lacero. Lacero can't handle it. It's loose on the ground. Now he handles it. Looking to go middle. Nothing there, so he backs back out and will take up position behind the net. 6 seconds to go in the third quarter. Hollenshade moves it in front. Can't be handled there by McKeon. Point blank opportunity for the Seahawks. They don't connect. 4 seconds to play here in the third quarter. Ball flipped back out near midfield, controlled by no one. Time will expire, and we'll head to the fourth quarter with the game tied at 5. So here at the start of the fourth quarter, game tied at 5. Shot from the near side, blocked away by Watkins and taken by Russell. Russell flips ahead for Rodrigo Hernandez. Hernandez flips for James Fee. James Fee crosses midfield, looking for entry into the offensive end. Passes up ahead to Alex Flynn. Hollenshade moves back out to the point. James Fee holding there. Sharp Jones moves to Dan Parks. Dan Parks already has 2 goals in this game. Comes to Curtis McKeon. McKeon flips to Lacero. Lacero cycling behind the net. Moves back out to James Fee. Shot from the point. Blocked wide by Metal. Lacero flips back out. Shot wide in net again. Lacero back to retrieve it. Lacero flips out to Fee. Now Dan Parks at the point. Back to Fee. Sharp Jones on the far side. Moves to Lacero again once behind the net. James Fee back to Lacero. Game tied at 5 here in the fourth quarter. Lacero trying to find James Fee in a centering pass, no good. Curtis McKeon bumping at the 30-yard line. Players still scrambling for the ball. Dan O'Gorman can't pick it up. Finally a whistle and a stoppage of play, and they give UNE the ball. Ball comes to the near side. Shot blocked away by Watkins. Taken by Auger. Back to the front. Leveled. Alex Hennessy lays a big hit, and that may have drawn the flag. Andy Curro. Cradling behind the net. Flips back to JT Oliver. Auger moves back to Oliver. Return to Auger. Now Dan O'Gorman. Trotting down the right side, guarded closely by James Fee. O'Gorman tries to feed it in front to Curro. Curro cradling, looking for contact. Curro loses his man. Tries to flip it to the far side. Now O'Gorman has it. O'Gorman centering pass, trickling out wide into the defensive zone, but scooped up there and taken by Dan Auger. Dan O'Gorman trying to work his way middle, shooting high over the net, going out of bounds. And now we're going to have to address the laundry on the field. See what we have here. Alex Hennessy is coming over to take a seat. So Alex Hennessy got called for 2 personal fouls, so he'll have to sit for 2 minutes. Man up advantage here for the Nor'easters. Game tied at 5. Dan O'Gorman moves to Patrick Wolf. Back to Oliver behind the net. Can't handle it. It's trickling out of bounds. Oliver took his eye off the ball. Salve Regina takes possession. Playing down the man for 2 minutes. Ball flipped out near midfield, taken by McKeon. McKeon, double teamed, loses the ball. It's loose on the ground. McKeon still slapping at it, trying to fight for it, and it's taken again by Dan Auger of the Nor'easters. Auger will flip to Dan O'Gorman. Gorman gets a signal from his coach, and now passes back off to Andy Curro. Gorman enters to Patrick Wolf. Now JT Oliver behind the net. Oliver feeds to the point to Curro. Curro's shot goes wide. Oliver to Wolf. Wolf spinning away from contact. Wolf trying to work his way to the middle. Shot high, bouncing over the net. And then another foul being called. This looks like it may be on Curtis McKeon. Now Curtis McKeon is going to have to sit for a minute. So Salve down 2 players here. Patrick Wolf, shot saved by Watkins. Ball loose in the middle, almost taken again by Wolf. Watkins out of his net to retrieve it, and he has it back. He'll just flip it up in near midfield trying to clear it. Ball still loose on the ground near midfield, taken again by Dan O'Connor. And a foul going against UNE will give the Seahawks the ball. 9:50 to play here in the 4th quarter. Game tied at 5. James Fee enters the offensive end for Salve Regina. Will circle back out. Now cross behind the net. Triple team. James Fee weaving his way through 3 people. Flips back out. Shot coming from the point from Cam Brazil, and he scores! Sharp Jones, rather, from the far point, and it's 6-5. Sharp Jones with the hat trick today. That's his third goal of the game. Gives Salve Regina the 6-5 advantage. 9:30 to play here in the fourth quarter. Alex Hennessy in the faceoff circle. Wins it momentarily, but Dan O'Gorman takes control. Now UNE charging the offensive end. Patrick Wolf flips it to O'Sullivan. Dan Ogre can't control on the far side. Ball trickles near the out of bounds. Dan Ogre. Andy Curro. So it was actually James Fee who scored that goal for Salve Regina, not Sharp Jones. So Sharp still looking for the hat trick, as is Dan Parks. But needless to say, Salve Regina leading 6-5. Dan Alger in front, shot, scored! Dan Alger, uncontested, ran in front of the net. Andy Watkins couldn't decide where to go. And Alger buries it, and we're tied again at 6. This is the kind of game where the last person who has possession of the ball is probably going to win. Anytime Salve Regina has gotten up a goal, the Nor'easters answer. Anytime the Nor'easters have gotten up, Salve Regina has answered. We have been stalemated pretty much this entire game. Curtis McKeon wins the face-off and tracks his way down the left side. Now works to the middle. Flipping back out to Sharp Jones. Moves it behind the net to Nick Lachero. Now Hollandshade. Flips back out to Dan Parks. Dan Parks back to Hollandshade. Hollandshade to Lachero. Lachero to Sharp Jones. Fee holding at the point. Return to Sharp. Back to Lachero. Hollandshade. Trying to pick his way. Feeds back to the point to Sharp Jones. Hollandshade. Return to Jones. Now James Fee at the point. Dan Parks holding near the 35-yard line. Flips to the far side. Ball comes by. McKeon handle it cross out of bounds, so a turnover on Salve Regina. 7.5 minutes to play here in the fourth quarter. Game tied at 6. Chris Harlow on Alex Flynn trying to find space. Tries to whip a shot. Saved by Andy Watkins in front. Outlet pass over the head, though, of Hernandez. Hernandez trying to track it down, trying to scoop it up. He can't get a handle on it. Now, finally does, has his cross knocked out. Alex Flynn controls at the 50-yard line. He gets tumbled to the ground. Trying still in. Now it's loose on the ground again. Sharp Jones trying to track it down. All of this happening on the far side of the field. A lot of contact. Play still continuing. No one in clear possession of the ball. It's just rolling around. Finally taken by a Nor'easter player. It was a good 30 seconds where no one was in possession of that ball on the far side. Long lead pass taken by Auger. Auger fakes. Watkins with a goal-saving save. All of the saves are goal-saving, but that one, an extra special save. Coming at a critical time, Dan Parks moves to Hollandshade. Curtis McKeon from the point, looking for that low-rising shot. McKeon spins away from contact, shoots high all over the net, and it goes out of bounds. back and may have been called for a foul. Yellow flag on the ground. Lob out near midfield, taken by Steven Russell, but refs blow the play dead. And we'll see what the call is here from the referee. 2:55 to go here in the fourth quarter. Salve leading by 1. So Nick Lachero gets called for the slash, so he'll have to sit for a minute. So the Nor'easters, in need of a goal to tie this game, have the man up. Andy Currow flips to Dan O'Gorman. O'Gorman back to Currow. Currow trying to feed it in front, spinning away from contact, looking for a shot. Nothing there. Mike Allen spinning away. Taken away by Steven Russell. 2.5 minutes to play here in the fourth quarter. Salve leading by 1 and the ball. Russell avoiding contact. Trying to flip it to the far side. It's taken there by David Maville and another whistle. Not sure what the call was, but they give the ball back to UNE. Dan Alger back to Dan O'Gorman. Andy Currow holding at the point. Dan O'Gorman finds Mike Allen. Mike Allen finds the far side. Dan Alger shoots, saved by Watkins. Watkins denies Alger. It'll still say Nor'easter's ball. 2:04 to play in the fourth quarter. And Salve Regina calls for a timeout. Will take it. Salve Regina clinging to the 7-6 lead. Players return to the field after the timeout. 2:04 to play here in the fourth quarter. Nor'easters in possession. Salve Regina trying to preserve their 7-6 lead. Due in most part to the play of Andy Watkins, who has stood on his head here in the fourth quarter. Dan Alger on the right side shoots wide of the net, trickling out of bounds. Still Nor'easter ball. Patrick Wolf trying to feed middle. Ball deflected. Shot in front. Scores. Dan Alger collects the redirected pass, and he scores. And we're tied at 7. .141 to play in the fourth. Players to face off at midfield. McKeon and O'Gorman. McKeon scrambling for it, kicks it back, and it's taken there by James Fee. James Fee trots into the offensive end. Moves to Sharp Jones, back behind the net. Hollandshade moves to Dan Parks. Parks has got the scoring started today for Salve Regina. McKeon Back to Fee. Sharp Jones. Lachero holding behind the net. Approaching a minute to play here in the fourth quarter. Dan Parks. Ball moved back behind the net again. Lachero. Holding. Moves back to Parks. Parks winds. Shoots. Saved by Metal. The ball still loose in front. Players scrambling for it. It goes behind the net, trickling towards the corner. McKeon will go there to track it down. And it goes out of bounds. 49 seconds to play here in the fourth quarter. Nor'easters with possession. Nick George lobs it for Gross. Gross, Leggett, moving in the offensive end. Ball loose in front, taken there. 25 seconds to play. Alex Hennessy trying to cross midfield, gets tripped up, loses the ball, collects it again, flags are on the ground. 15 seconds to play. Hollandshade. Holding on the far side, Lachero behind the net. 9 seconds to play. Lachero still looking for a pass. Curtis McKeon holding. Lets time expire. And we will head to overtime. The game tied at 7. So players getting set for what will be sudden death overtime. Here on a overcast and rainy Saturday afternoon. Nor'easters brought their weather with them. Game tied at 7. And the Seahawks will be up a man as we start the sudden death overtime. 4 minutes on the clock. Eric Backus trots into the offensive end. Ball moved behind the net. Hollandshade. Return to Backus. Now Curtis McKeon. Back to Hollandshade. Lachero holding behind the net. Ball moved to the far side. Return pass from McKeon, deflected wide. Sharp Jones scoops it up, though, at the 40-yard line, spinning away from contact. Jones back to Hollandshade. Hollandshade to Lachero. Lachero spins and shoots, and it's saved. That's either off the post or right off the stick of Metal. Salve still in possession, though. Lachero holding at the point, moves back to McKeon. Now Hollandshade, suicide, he scores! Chad Hollandshade wins the game for Salve! A minute and 41 seconds into the overtime period. Not even 41 seconds into the overtime period. Chad Hollandshade buries it from the short side right in front of Joe Metal. And the Seahawks have improved to 9-1 on the season with an 8-7 win over the University of New England. A hard-fought, closely contested game. Not a surprise that it went to overtime. These teams were stalemated from the get-go, but Salve Regina just just a little bit better on a cold, rainy afternoon to defeat the University of New England. They improved to 9-1, 2-1 in conference play. Meanwhile, University of New England, they fall to 3-7 and 0-2 in the conference. I'd like to thank our entire staff and production crew, and to you for listening. The Seahawks next travel to take on Roger Williams this Wednesday at 7 p.m. before returning home for a matchup with Western New England next Saturday at 3 p.m. Until then, I'm Andrew Pizzelli, and thank you for listening.